Hello, everyone. I am Jenny Parker with the National Animal Supplement Council. Welcome to today's Preferred Supplier webinar, From Proof to Purchase, How Clinically Validated Postbiotics Pay Off for Pet Brands. Today's webinar will be presented by Kingdom. And it is now my pleasure to introduce today's speakers. Kendall Tabagi is co-founder and CEO at Kingdom. He co-founded Kingdom in 2019 after several years of microbiome research at Columbia, where he built novel, high-throughput systems for isolating and characterizing human gut microbiomes and developed new computational approaches for classifying them. Prior to Kingdom, Kendall co-founded A+, a media company acquired by Chicken Soup for the Soul and GridTech, a web security platform acquired by Spirent Communications. He holds a BA from Duke University and was a Fulbright Scholar. Adrienne Carrister is VP of Growth at Kingdom. She leads Kingdom's go-to-market team, working with pet brands and pet parents to identify the unmet needs that superculture ingredients can uniquely address, and helping brands to incorporate the ingredients into their end products. Prior to Kingdom, Adrienne led organic growth initiatives for Fortune 500 companies across the food value chain. She holds an MBA from Stanford University. And I will now turn the webinar over to Kendall.
Thanks, Jenny. It's great to be with you all today. To share just a couple of important disclaimers before we begin. We've written them out on the screen, but the intent is for this content to be for professional audiences, not for consumers. And we remind everybody that ultimately the end product brands that use ingredients are responsible for claims that you make on your end product, and you should consult with regulatory and legal experts before making those. And in addition, you should consult all relevant sources, including not limited to NASC guidance and FDA guidance as well. And we have a more detailed disclaimer on the first side of this presentation that you can refer to as well. Okay, so to kick off with the actual content, we're Kingdom, and at Kingdom we develop superculture ingredients, which are a new class of postbiotics that we clinically validate and that target the root causes of unmet pet health needs. At our business, we have 21 full-time team members. We have 8 PhDs with technical expertise, a 9,000 square foot lab where we do state-of-the-art R&D in the middle of Brooklyn, New York. If any of you are ever passing through New York, please reach out. We'd love to give you a tour. And in our lab, we have a biobank of tens of thousands of proprietary microbes. As far as we know, it's one of the world's largest and most comprehensive biobanks of these proprietary natural microbes. In order to execute on our work, build out this fundamental scientific platform that underlies all of the ingredients that we create, we've raised around $40 million in venture funding and another $3 million in competitive R&D grants from the different governmental programs. So as far as how we deliver on this mission, what we do is we take our biobank of the tens of thousands of microbes, we look for specific individual microbes and combinations of microbes that can deliver exceptional functionalities on particular health benefits that we're screening for pets. We then validate their efficacy through multiple double-blinded, placebo-controlled, randomized clinical studies. We submit those to peer review. We've published 5 of them now already on our ingredients. And then we take those ingredients that we discover and develop, and we manufacture those at large commercial scale and are actively supplying those to some of the leading and household brand names in the pet space. On the right, we highlight what we consider to be table stakes for our ingredients. They're all natural, non-GMO. We don't do any synthetic engineering. What we're doing is looking for natural microbes and combinations of those that have these exceptional functionalities. We manufacture everything in the United States. Everything is AFCO or EU QPS listed. And we don't use any corn, soy, wheat, and we design our ingredients as postbiotics so that they'll be stable across a wide variety of different manufacturing processes. And we ensure, along with our clinical trials, we also do palatability trials to make sure that the ingredients are palatable to dogs and cats. So what will we go through in this session? First, we'll do a Postbiotic 101. We'll give an overview of what postbiotics are, how they're different from probiotics, and why this is important from a formulation standpoint. Secondly, we will talk through the clinical validation components of postbiotics. because with all these ingredients and with increasing consumer demand for proof that products and the ingredients in them actually work and deliver benefits that pet parents can notice, it's imperative that ultimately brands are using ingredients with real clinical validation behind them so that they can make claims and improve the efficacy of their products. And related to that, the third thing we'll go through is all the clinical data on our superculture postbiotics. As I mentioned, we've done I think 11, maybe 12 clinical trials at this point on our 2 ingredients, and we've published 5 of those, the results from those trials in peer-reviewed studies already. And so we don't just compile data, we subject it to peer review. We have some of the best scientists out there that do this peer review the manuscripts, weigh in on it, and then we publish it. And lastly, then we'll take a look at how brands are taking this clinical evidence that we provide into real visible results that pet parents can perceive, the marketing claims that this enables, and the products with superior efficacy that can be built by using ingredients with real clinical validation and manufacturing and formulation stability behind them. So kicking off with Postbiotic 101. Everyone's probably heard these terms, prebiotic, probiotic, postbiotic, but what are they and what makes them different from one another? The way that we think about it, we've put together an analogy here, where if you think about probiotics, the living microbes as a factory that create beneficial compounds that have a health effect for dogs and cats, the probiotics are those living organisms, the factories that produce these things. Prebiotics are anything that a probiotic can eat and that will allow them to grow and to expand and produce these beneficial compounds. And then the beneficial compounds that the probiotics make are called postbiotics. And so this is why all of these are important. Probiotics are making these beneficial compounds and metabolites for the dogs and cats. They need prebiotics in order to live and to grow, and then they're making postbiotics. But what makes postbiotics particularly interesting is that if you have all of the beneficial compounds that the probiotics have made, you don't necessarily need to deliver the probiotics. You're delivering all of the beneficial compounds and metabolites that they would have created. And the most important thing is it's then in shelf-stable form. And so you can take these compounds and metabolites, you can send them directly to the gut or to the oral cavity, or wherever it is that you're trying to have a health effect, and you're going to have more reproducible results. You're going to have better stability in your products, and you're going to be able to deliver a health effect that's demonstrable with more reproducibility. And so I guess I'll go back one slide, Adrian, just to touch more specifically on some of the check marks that we have over there. As a result of using postbiotics, you get better shelf stability, more broad formulation options. You can deliver health benefits directly to the part of the animal that you want to impact, and you get more consistent performance. And unlike probiotics, you don't have challenges with all of the CFU counting issues that I know a number of brands have dealt with and the difficulties inherent in that. So it's not surprising that as a result of the attractiveness of postbiotics, that awareness, interest, and demand for them is growing rapidly from end consumers. So we've highlighted some of the statistics here where the pet wellness market has expanded, has more than doubled in just a few years, but the pet biotics market is dramatically expanding as well. And within the pet biotics market, prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics are the fastest growing segment as consumers and brands are waking up to the improved formulation, stability, the more reproducible efficacy, and consumers are becoming more and more aware. 4x positive association with postbiotics in the last few years. And we've highlighted a few illustrative products on the right-hand side from very well-known brands that are now formulating very intentionally with postbiotics. So we'll do a quick poll. We'll set aside 20 to 30 seconds. If those of you attending can use your phones, if you scan this QR code, we're very interested to hear from you. And if you scan the QR code, you can submit to us the health need you most frequently hear requests about from pet parents, and whether you're currently using postbiotics in any of your formulations. So please take a second to scan the QR code and fill this out. And LS from our team has shared a link in the chat. If you don't have your phone handy, if you're on your computer, you can just click the link in the chat and that'll take you to the poll. All right, I think we can keep going, Adrian. Okay, so moving to section 2, the business case for clinically validated postbiotics. The truth is that, and many of us as pet parents ourselves have probably felt this, but year after year, people are spending more and more to address these urgent health needs in their dogs and cats. On skin and itching, for 15 years in a row, allergic dermatitis has been the main reason that dogs are ultimately taken to the vet. On oral health, by the time that dogs are just a couple of years old, 90% of them are dealing with some kind of periodontal disease. And dealing with oral health is consistently among the costliest vet bills for pet parents, especially for more senior dogs where this is extremely advanced. And then from a digestive and gut health perspective, this is a perennial issue that pet parents are concerned about. And in a recent statistic, we found that over 90% of dog owners say that gut health is very important to their overall health. And those of us that are pet parents ourselves know all of these three things to be true. And on the right-hand side, you can see how much people are spending to address these issues. And so as pet parents are spending more and more to address these issues, what's frustrating for them is that they continue to cycle through different diets, different supplements, searching for something that works, and pretty consistently coming up short. And so we've compiled a lot of reviews and quotations from pet parents here. You can see the kinds of claims that brands can make around supporting the immune system, supporting stomach, supporting immune health, supporting digestive health. But the gap that we've seen in the market when we entered this a few years ago is that the demand for consumers is the demand from pet parents for products that truly work and that can make health and that can make marketing claims that actually speak to that, as opposed to just saying supports immune health or supports digestive health, that really gets specific about what these products can do for the health needs that are top of mind for pet parents, is a big gap. And that's the gap that we're working to address. So unsurprisingly, as pet parents are cycling through products that they don't feel like are delivering real benefits that they can perceive, what's become really top of mind for pet parents and all of the consumer research that we've seen and done is that pet parents are increasingly looking for proof that the product is going to work. They're getting tired of claims that aren't substantiated, and they want, ideally, to see proven claims, that there's actual clinical data behind the ingredients, behind the products that they're buying. And you can see here some of the statistics that we've compiled about 75% of consumers looking for proven claims, that the number one desired claim is something demonstrating clinical proof. And the other interesting component of this is that if there is proof that the product works, pet parents are willing to pay up for it. And so 50%, over half of them, will pay a premium for products that have a clinically proven claim associated with them. And this is where clinically proven ingredients come in, is that if you incorporate clinically proven ingredients into your products, you now can make claims, you now can deliver real efficacy to pet parents and close that gap between the desire that they have for products that truly work and unsubstantiated claims. And so why is this important for brands? It isn't just about making the product more effective or getting better marketing claims. As we mentioned on the previous slide, if you have products that deliver real efficacy, over half of consumers are willing to pay more for those. And you're able to acquire customers more effectively by making claims that stand out. You can retain customers more effectively because your products actually work and people want to buy more of them. And then they leave positive reviews, then they tell their friends, word of mouth grows. And so it very much becomes a flywheel if you can invest in ingredients and put them in products so that your products stand out from the competition. So now that there are more and more postbiotics in the market responding to this need from consumers for postbiotics that are shelf stable, the question that we get a lot from brands is how to differentiate between postbiotics. And so we've put together an illustrative table here because it's not that difficult to make a generic postbiotic. You can take a strain, you can basically ferment it and then spray dry it. And sure, you have a postbiotic. You've frozen all of the goods that this probiotic made. But if there's not clinical evidence that that works, it's not all that helpful to put it in your product because it may not be doing anything. And so there's a very strong difference here between what we think of as a generic postbiotic, where you can make claims about just supporting digestion or supporting healthy skin and coat, but where there's not really clinical substantiation. There's not much to say about the end product results because the generic postbiotic isn't doing all that much. And then what you have in the end is a dissatisfied customer who churns, leaves a negative review, maybe tells their friends as well, don't use this product, versus a clinically validated postbiotic that has real evidence, that has marketing claims that stand out from that evidence. So things like clinically validated to improve stool quality in 28 days, or improves human perception of coat quality after just 14 days. These are very specific claims where you have a benefit that a pet parent can perceive. You have a time frame for which you can expect it. And these are the critical things that make a difference to consumers as they're comparing products. And to be able to make those claims, you really do need real clinical substantiation behind it. And that requires well thought through, well designed, well executed clinical trials, ideally that are then peer reviewed and published so that the data is not just proprietary to the ingredient supplier, but it's actually held up under scrutiny from other scientists. And then the pet parent result, or the end result, is you have a product that works, and you have a pet parent that's enthusiastic about the product, leaves a positive review, tells their friends, etc., and builds that positive flywheel for enterprise value that comes from products that truly make a difference in pet parents' lives. So we put together here a checklist for people to think about. When you're evaluating putting a postbiotic in your product, is it really clinically validated? A truly clinically validated postbiotic will have gone through a clinical trial that's randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled, that has clear statistical power analysis to show a difference between the control group and the intervention group, clearly defined primary and secondary endpoints so that it was clear as the trial was designed before it was executed what you were trying to show, what was being measured, and then seeing results on those. Those should be decided again in a pre-specified way, pre-specified statistical analysis approach before the study is conducted, not cherry-picking data after the study to try to find interesting tidbits here and there. And then, as I mentioned a couple times, taking the results of those clinical trials and subjecting it to peer review and ensuring that other leading scientists agree that the data is interesting and that it stands up under scrutiny.
And one other thing I'd jump in and add here, which is not on the slide, is that the study was run in the target population, so in dogs and cats, versus in other species, humans, production animals, etc.
Yeah, that's a very important point, Adrian. Okay, so one more poll. LS has left a link in the chat, but we're interested in hearing from all of you from 1 to 10. First, how important is it to you to have rigorous clinical validation supporting your formulations? And second, how rigorous is the clinical validation behind your current functional ingredients that you're using? Please use your phone, scan the QR code, or click the link that LS left in the chat and let us know.
And we'll share some of the insights from this in the follow-up on the webinar.
Over to you, Adrian. I think we can keep going.
Awesome. Thanks, Kendall. Great. So now we'll dive into the clinical data behind our superculture ingredients. And Before we get into some of that extensive data, I want to briefly highlight how we approach ingredient development at Kingdom, because I think it's really important. First and foremost, we believe that it's critical to design ingredients that deliver a specific, noticeable, and quantifiable impact on the unmet dog and cat health needs that we've identified. And this is because at the end of the day, our job is not just to do great science, it's really to enable brand partners to impact the lives of millions of pets and their adoring pet parents. And so, to do that effectively, we seek to give pet parents a reason to trial a new product, and a reason to continue to choose to spend their hard-earned dollars on repurchasing that product each month. And we know from our extensive consumer insights research that Kendall highlighted in the first half of this presentation that pet parents are really looking for products that deliver real noticeable benefits. It's important to, of course, impact the underlying biomarkers, but what is a benefit that is perceptible to a pet parent is ultimately what's going to drive them to search for a product in the first place, as well as evaluate whether that product is working or not, and a primary driver of repurchase rates. And so with this in mind, once we've identified that unmet pet health need, in this example up on the screen, poor oral health in dogs and the noticeable benefit being bad breath, our technical team goes really deep on understanding the underlying biology of the problem, specifically in dogs and cats. I think important to highlight here that unlike many actives on the market that may have been designed originally for humans or for production animals and then sold into the companion animal space, oftentimes without any clinical data demonstrating efficacy in dogs and cats, our superculture postbiotics are designed from the ground up specifically for dog and cat biology. And that's where we start our work on a technical side. And so in this example, it turns out that there's a set of specific unwanted microbes in the dog and cat oral cavity that are not only responsible for creating and forming biofilms and plaque that harden into tartar and contribute to poor oral health. But it's the same set of microbes that are also responsible for producing volatile sulfur compounds, which makes your breath smell bad. And so with these targets in mind, our team then screens through our biobank of tens of thousands of proprietary microbial strains to find that subset of specific AAFCO-listed strains or strains within the AAFCO-listed species that demonstrate the greatest performance on the biological target that we've identified. And so in this case, we ran thousands of experiments to measure the extent to which different strains within the same species, in many cases, can disrupt biofilms that have started to form in an ex vivo model and also reduce the production of volatile sulfur compounds in vitro settings. And so then as we are able to hone in on the top performing strains, we can use computational biology to select the optimal combination of those top performing strains and then optimize the fermentation conditions to ensure that we can consistently produce the same levels of the target compounds in an economically viable manner. And so, Kendall mentioned that a generic postbiotic is not always that difficult to produce. You grow up a probiotic strain, you heat kill it, you spray dry it, you have a set of different compounds. In this case, we are able to optimize every aspect of the fermentation process to ensure high levels of very specific compounds or set of compounds of interest. And that allows us to ensure consistent performance batch to batch. And then finally, of course, we conduct extensive validation to demonstrate the clinical efficacy not only on the biomarkers of interest, but also those noticeable benefits that really matter most to pet parents. So in this case, not only looking at the reduction of the unwanted microbes that are producing these biofilms and plaque and volatile sulfur compounds, not only looking at the reduction, the quantitative reduction of volatile sulfur compounds, but also measuring the human perception of bad breath, and being able to demonstrate in many studies that the ingredient is able to consistently reduce bad breath in a very short period of time. And so the result is that our ingredients are now backed by Kendall mentioned 12. We have 9 completed clinical studies, but 3 that are in progress right now. So many studies that are like 12 completed or in progress is the total number. And to our knowledge, these ingredients really do have stronger data in dogs and cats than many other postbiotics across the specific benefits that we've identified being so important to pet parents. And so we'll go through these. I think some of you that are more familiar with our portfolio are aware that we have 2 superculture ingredients that have been validated to impact 3 core unmet need areas. So we'll go through them one by one. But starting with our superculture pet immune ingredient and skin and coat health and itching. So for those of you that are formulating allergy and itch products, are formulating main meal benefits with skin and coat health, main meal products with skin and coat benefits. Our superculture pet immune is one of the only clinically validated, or one of the only postbiotics on the market that's been clinically validated to reduce itching in a population of healthy dogs and improve skin and coat health in a matter of weeks and over a sustained period of time. And so at a very high level, we have 2 clinical trials measuring itching, skin and coat health endpoints done in dogs. One of those studies has been published in a leading peer-reviewed journal. And we have published additional data or presented additional data in ACVIM this past June. And so the claim categories here are itching and seasonal allergies, as I mentioned, as well as coat health, shiny coat, soft coat, and glossy coat. I'm cognizant of the time, so I'm going to run through some of this data in a bit more detail. But first, why itching? We did a lot of analysis of commonly used search terms on Amazon and across different product reviews. And it turned out that itching was continually ranked as cited more frequently in those search terms and across product reviews. And so it was a clear indicator for us that this was a hair on fire problem that pet parents were seeking out solutions to solve, and a real gap in the market. And so, as mentioned, we have 1 study focused on itch reduction. This one was a 30-dog study, double-blind, placebo-controlled, with the results published in a peer-reviewed journal, where we were able to demonstrate a meaningful reduction in not just itching behavior, 20% reduction in just a matter of days and weeks, quantified by this wearable activity monitor, so like an accelerometer. But we are also able to demonstrate a reduction in the human perception of itching behavior measured by the PVAS score. And so this is really powerful because we took 2 completely separate approaches for measurement of a similar endpoint, and we're able to demonstrate statistically significant reduction on both of those. As you'll see here, initial trends starting as early as 14 days, and then by 28 days, a statistically significant reduction compared to the placebo. When it comes to skin and coat, the ingredient has been demonstrated to improve the human perception of coat quality, as well as coat softness and glossiness. And so in 2 studies, we've been able to show an impact in a short period of time. So visible results starting in 14 days. But in another study that was a bit longer, and this was some of the data we presented at ACVM this past June, being able to demonstrate the ingredient's ability to improve coat softness and glossiness at days 56 and 91, demonstrating the sustained skin and coat benefits of the ingredient when taken on a daily basis. The same ingredient has also been clinically validated to improve stool consistency and gut microbiome diversity in both dogs and cats. So for formulators in the audience that are thinking about how to incorporate clinically validated gut health or stool quality benefits into either a targeted supplement, a functional food, or even more broadly, a holistic main meal health product, this ingredient offers claims that have been backed by multiple studies in dogs and a first study in cats, which is really powerful. Similarly, 2 of the studies have been published in peer-reviewed journals. And so I think it's important, we oftentimes in this industry take the, gut health for granted as like a core claim. But I think it is important to understand why it is so sought after and is so important. And so in some of this research that we've done on Google search trends, but also looking at pet insurance claims and where pet parents are spending their money, we consistently see that gut health is ranked as a #1 driver for dog and cat parents, especially as they think about the importance of gut health and their pet's overall health. And we also see that digestive upset is consistently a top 1 or 2 reason why dogs and cats are brought to the vet. And so we see a huge adoption of products across the market and adoption that continues to grow very rapidly for products that are able to deliver proven gut health, digestive health, stool quality results. And so across these 3 studies, some of the key stool quality and gut microbiome claims to highlight. The first is in both of our dog and cat study, being able to demonstrate clinically statistically significant improvement in stool quality and consistency as measured by the Waltham fecal score in just 28 days. And then similarly showing a increase in gut microbiome Shannon diversity in just a matter of weeks. You'll see kind of the studies highlighted below, but these 3 studies, one of which is published in the peer-reviewed journal, and then we have some undergoing peer review right now. 2 have been conducted in dogs, and then, as I mentioned, the first in cats. And then finally, highlighting our superculture pet oral ingredient, we continue to see a huge rise in demand for oral health products. And so especially those that might be looking and seeking to deliver oral health benefits beyond the traditional mechanical action delivery format. So for formulators that are thinking about or evaluating ingredients to deliver oral health benefits to dogs and cats, our superculture pet oral has substantially stronger performance on oral health outcomes than many leading market alternatives or all the leading market alternatives. Specifically, this ingredient is backed by 5 clinical studies in dogs, all of which are double-blinded placebo-controlled. 3 of those 5 studies have been published in leading peer-reviewed journals, 2 of which in the Journal of Veterinary Dentistry. And we've also been selected to present our research at the Veterinary Dental Forum last year. When it comes to claims, the claim categories of interest, of course, are bad breath, breath freshness, oral microbiome, and oral health. And so quickly highlight how superculture pet oral works. It is designed, as I mentioned earlier, to really target the root cause of poor oral health in dogs. And so designed to impact oral health in two key ways. The first, by suppressing the set of unwanted microbes that are responsible for forming biofilms and plaque, as well as producing the volatile sulfur compounds that make bad breath smell bad. And the second is directly disrupting those oral microbiomes in the dog's mouth as they've started to form. And so, what's been really exciting and is to be able to see consistently across these studies the same result time and time again. And so we've now run 5 clinical studies, all double-blinded, placebo-controlled, demonstrating that the ingredient delivers efficacy across these 3 endpoints of interest above and beyond what alternatives offer in the market. And so specifically and most notably, being able to demonstrate a significant reduction in bad breath compounds in just 7 days, in 1 week, it's really powerful effect and efficacy to be able to deliver in an end product, to have a pet parent notice a change in such a short period of time. And similarly, being able to prove a reduction in that set of unwanted microbes that generate biofilms and plaque in just a week. I'm, in the interest of time, going to keep jumping forward, but I do think there's an open invite here to reach out to us if you're interested in digging into the clinical data in more detail. We would love to spend time with you, walking you through it, answering questions, and really digging into some of the details that we just didn't have time to get into today. One last piece that I will highlight before we get into the next section is just the stability profile of the ingredients. Kenzel mentioned at the beginning the importance, or one of the key benefits of formulating with a postbiotic is the strong stability profile, which inherently enables a wider range of formulation options. And we have gone and, we don't just take that at face value. We have gone and done extensive stability work on both of our ingredients to demonstrate that they remain stable across a wide range of manufacturing processes and in a wide range of end product formats. This also extends to shelf life as well, which I know is a critical consideration for many of you that are formulating products to sell into the retail channels. These ingredients are undergoing ongoing extended shelf life studies, but have been validated up to for retest dates beyond 24 months, so 2 years. And one of the superculture pet oral, which is a little bit further ahead, is already at 30 months. And we're continuing to run those studies and expect to get multiple years of shelf life data. The last thing I will highlight on this slide, since there's a lot of data here, is that one of the 2 conditions that we think are really valuable or important to highlight is the stability profile under retort manufacturing conditions, as well as freeze-thaw cycles. So as we see an explosion in wet food formats across both dogs and cats, this is an ingredient that will deliver oral health benefits without mechanical action, and is also stable for incorporation into products that go through the retort manufacturing process. Similarly, we're seeing an explosion of fresh food diets, and we have validated both ingredients for stability through freeze-thaw cycles, which is often typical for many refrigerated fresh food products. In our last couple of minutes, wanted to close out our presentation here by highlighting kind of the value in the clinical evidence to leading towards pet parent loyalty. So really closing the gap on kind of the business case for formulating with clinically validated ingredients. And Kendall highlighted this earlier, but ultimately brands win because pet parents notice these benefits in just a short period of time it leads them to repurchase the product. So within that 28-day repurchase window, they make the decision to continue to invest their hard-earned dollars in repurchasing this product that's delivering the benefits they were looking for. They leave favorable reviews online and they tell their friends about how amazing this product is. And this has been a really rewarding aspect of my job, or this job, is getting to read all the product reviews of the brands that have formulated with our ingredients and see the ways in which brands are using our ingredient in formulations that are really changing the lives of many pet parents, not only in the US, but around the world. And so by formulating with ingredients that really generate benefits in a short period of time, it generates this flywheel effect that Kendall highlighted and gives a lot of momentum. And kind of highlighting, we talked a little bit about time period, but we'll just kind of share this again. It's so many of our clinical studies that we have run initially have been focused on demonstrating a visible impact in that repurchase window. And so you'll see across all of our studies benefits in 7 days, in 14 days, in 28 days. And then, of course, running some studies to demonstrate the sustained impact over time as well. But lastly, I think you can trust our word, but I think also highlighting the ways in which brands who have formulated with superculture pet ingredients, what they're seeing in the market. And funny enough, we built this slide a week or two ago, and at that point we had 24 products in the market. There were a handful that launched at Super Zoo, so this number is now well over 30. And the feedback just continues to be overwhelmingly positive. Across the product reviews that pet parents leave on our brand partners' websites, they talk about, on the oral health products, noticing better breath in 1 to 2 weeks. They talk about improved gum and tooth appearance. They have left reviews indicating that they spend less on their vet bills. We've seen a handful of stories about pet parents spending more time up close and personal with their dogs. It's really emotional and really powerful. And on the superculture pet immune side, across allergy, itch, skin and coat, digestive health products, we hear pet parents talk about noticeable reduction in itching in just 2 to 4 weeks, softer coats, less tummy troubles. And we've also heard many stories of pet parents being less reliant on some really harsh itching medication. And so I think this also is further emphasized by the fact that over 90% of our customers are actually who've launched a first product with us are launching second and third. And it's because they see and are experiencing the real value of formulating with clinically validated postbiotics. I think we talked a little bit about acquisition and retention and how that ultimately translates to metrics that matter. Is these brands are seeing lower CAC, lower cost of acquisition, and higher lifetime value of some of their customers. And so we are really excited to continue to expand the pack of brands that are already seeing these benefits and making a real meaningful impact in the lives of the pet parents that they serve. And so we invite you to reach out to us at hello@kingdomsuperculture.com, request a sample of our superculture postbiotics, and share the benefits and claims that you're targeting. And our team will work tirelessly with you to help you evaluate the postbiotics you're looking at and kind of see whether whether superculture pet oral or superculture pet immune is a fit to achieving your core business objectives, your innovation priorities, and ultimately impact the lives of many pets and their pet parents. So when we hear from you, we'll share the detailed clinical dossiers, regulatory documentation, marketing claims, thought starters, and we'll be there to support your team at every step along the way. So Thank you so much. I think we're actually going to wrap up with a very quick summary of what we covered and then jump into Q&A. But to quickly recap, what we talked about today, where the market is heading, we see pet parents are increasingly looking for real substantiated benefits and are willing to pay up for them. We see that they are doing a lot of their own research. There are so many different options on the market, and so they are looking for products that are formulated with ingredients that have clinical backing on them, if not products that have clinical studies done on them entirely. We see that products that don't have those substantiated benefits, it leads to churn, negative reviews, negative word of mouth. It is very costly for businesses who end up reformulating or end up losing retention of some really core customers. And then we also see how proof and clinical proof translates into brands being able to capture premium pricing, drive repeat purchase, gain increased favorable reviews, and also generate momentum through more positive word of mouth recommendations. As it comes down to the opportunity of formulating with postbiotics, we see that a huge number of brands are starting to put postbiotic on label. That is really exciting, and it also tells you nothing about the efficacy behind it. And so we're really excited to work with you all to share all the research that we've done, to share the published peer-reviewed studies that are available not only to you, but to pet parents, to really demonstrate the efficacy and drive greater retention of your products. And so, yeah, with that, I will turn things back to Jenny to open up Q&A. Thank you again for your time, and we're excited to hear from you.
Thank you, Adrian and Kendall. We appreciate that presentation. A lot of information there, but we do have your contact information, and I hope that our attendees will reach out if they have questions for you. Right now, we have a couple of questions. First and foremost, we have someone asking, how is the product labeled?
Yes, I can speak to that. So AFCO has certain labeling guidelines. Our Superculture Pet Oral ingredient is Bacillus subtilis, dried Bacillus subtilis fermentation product, and dried Pediococcus pentastaceus fermentation product. The Superculture Pet Immune ingredient is a dried Pediococcus acidolatece fermentation product. For products that are in supplements under NASC, there's a little bit more flexibility on naming on pack.
All right. Our next question for Superculture Oral Health. The clinical trials that were done, how significant was the reduction in plaque? Is it enough to meet the Veterinary Oral Health Council threshold?
Kendall, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. It's helpful when I can speak. It's a great question. And the truth is, our ingredient was designed more for reducing what we would consider to be the root causes of oral health, which are essentially the unwanted microbes that compose the oral microbiome, specifically the unwanted ones that generate the biofilms and plaque that harden into tartar, that create the volatile sulfur compounds or VSCs that lead to bad breath, that also cause inflammation in the oral cavity. And so we designed the ingredient from the ground up to go after these unwanted microbe constituents as opposed to directly addressing plaque itself. And so in our clinical trials, we focused on bad breath reduction, VSC reduction, oral microbiome improvements, and in all of those, we have strongly significant results across multiple trials. On the plaque piece specifically, and VOHC piece specifically, the truth is you don't really need an active ingredient necessarily to get the VOHC results. If you look through products, I think the mechanical action is what actually drives, based on the way the protocol is designed, mechanical action is a large driver of what actually leads to the reductions in plaque and tartar that one needs for VOHC. So we haven't designed the ingredient for that. We would point more towards, I think mechanical action truthfully can get you most of the way there. But Yeah, it's definitely an area of interest. I think we're considering it for the future, but we didn't see that as a place where there was unmet need as much as on bad breath reduction, reduction in VSCs, improvements in the oral microbiome. For those outputs specifically, there are not good active ingredients on the market and not good alternatives because mechanical action doesn't really do much for that, though it does do a lot for the plaque and tartar pieces.
Thanks, Kendall. I do want to mention that we just realized that the links that were sent out earlier for the polls were actually sent to hosts and panelists only, not to everyone. They have been shared in the chat, so if you would like to go to the chat and complete those polls, that would be outstanding. And the next question is, what is the general timeline for integrating superculture into an existing product via a brand's contract manufacturer?
Oh, that's a good question. It is as fast as you can move. We have the ingredients in samples and inventory, as well as we build up inventory. We are producing and selling a lot of these ingredients right now, and we love to move fast. So we are happy to work with you and your contract manufacturer partner to get our ingredients into their facility for evaluation if we're not already working with them, and support your product reformulation process and launch. If you are looking for a co-manufacturer, you don't have one that you're set on, we're also very happy to introduce you to co-manufacturers that we work with frequently and who've already have evaluated and onboarded our ingredients.
All right, thank you. Next question. How would we present the information regarding the studies for the ingredient from our website and PDPs if adding this into a product? Do we link to Kingdom, or is there a certain amount that can live on our own website?
Yeah, it's a great question. There is certainly a lot of brands we work with today choose to link to the published peer-reviewed studies, because that is neither on our website or anyone else's, but or sorry, not or the brands, but demonstrates that it's been validated by a credible third party. And brands are also welcome to cite the data that we have in our studies. We would just ask that it's properly cited.
Okay, thank you. We are out of questions, Adrian, but I was wondering, before we wrap up, we have a few minutes. Can you speak to Kingdom's go forward clinical validation pipeline?
Yeah, absolutely. So we believe, as highlighted by this webinar, the importance in continued validation of our ingredients in species of interest. We've highlighted that of our 9 completed clinical studies, we have only 1 in cats. And we see that there is a huge underserved market opportunity to empower brands who are formulating specifically for cats and cat parents. And so that's where we're focused over the next couple of months. And
That's true. We are definitely focused on cats. The other thing that I would call out is that on the immune health ingredient specifically, because the immune system is involved in so many different things, we've already done trials on itching, we've done trials on skin and coat quality and glossiness, we've done trials on gut health, but we actually think there are a couple of other health benefit areas where the immune system is relevant. And so we can't share more on the specifics of it today, but I will say that for the immune ingredient, we're interested in running clinical trials in a couple of other areas that we think the immune system is implicated in, and where the ingredient, based on the active components of it, could drive a real effect. So we'll have more on that to share, hopefully, along with the cat results that Adrian alluded to soon.
Excellent.
And Adrian, is it worth mentioning some of what we're thinking in terms of ingredient pipeline as well, beyond these first 2 ingredients?
I can say very high level. We're excited about we see the trends in aging dog and cat population and the broader emphasis on longevity and healthy aging. So that's a category that we are exploring.
So if you're formulating products in that area or for cats or for the areas that we touched on today, please be in touch and we'd be happy to share more about the information we have, the information that we're generating with these upcoming trials, and talk to you about how we can work together.
Excellent. Thank you very much. On behalf of NASC, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today and participating in our webinar. And a big thank you to Adrian Carrister and Kendall DeBoggy and the Kingdom team, because a lot of hard work went on behind the scenes to get this webinar going. We just appreciate all of you joining us today. And once again, I just want to mention that the webinar will be archived on the NASC website at nasc.cc/webinars. Feel free to share this presentation with anyone in your organization that you think could benefit from this knowledge. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see you for next month's webinar, which will be announced very soon. Thank you, Adrian and Kendall.
Thanks, Jenny.
Before we wrap, could I say one more quick thing?
Absolutely.
I just I wanted to thank you, Jenny, for all of the work that went into hosting this. You got on with us early. You've done a lot of work to prepare things so that we could present to everyone today, and I wanted to express appreciation for that. And then I also wanted to express appreciation to everyone that attended the webinar and spent the last hour with us learning a little bit more about some of the work we do and trends that we're seeing in the pet space. We're excited to hear from all of you and look forward to talking more.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kendall. It's our pleasure. We appreciate it. Take care, everyone.